Hello, hello, and welcome to this Tuesday, August 6th, 2019 episode of Apple Sidekick. Today's episode is about the iPad. And is the iPad the hero or a great sidekick to the Mac? Now, I've got my iPad Pro here, and I had the original iPad and I had the iPad 2. And then I finally upgraded to this. And I love it. I love the size of the screen. I also kind of wish I had an iPad mini. I've wanted an iPad mini since they were released. I don't know if I would want the 10.5 inch. I think that the bigger screen or the smaller screen and then the phones are good sizes. Now, the question is it the hero or a great sidekick to the Mac? And it's interesting because I've really been jumping into using my devices together more and more and more. Now that I've got internet, they work together to more each day. I've got my Apple Pencil. Just having it, you wouldn't imagine how it changes things to simply have it. Just having the pencil, knowing you have it, and then you're like, okay, well, I can write on there. And it's just easy. It's like, no, you put it back, and you've got the pencil there all the time. I mean, not if your case doesn't allow it, but that's what's cool about the new one is that it's magnetic. Now, that might fall off, stuff like that, whereas my case has a good pencil holder. But, the iPad really is going to become a hero with the iPad, with iPad OS. I've watched enough videos. I haven't done the beta myself, but I've watched enough to realize, yep, it solves many of the problems. Now, what doesn't it solve? Well, it doesn't solve the fact of multiple screens. It's a sidekick. If you have a Mac, if you have an iPad, if you have a phone, the iPad's going to be a sidekick to your other devices. You're going to have your iPhone on you at all times in your pocket. If you have an Apple Watch, it's going to be on your wrist. So you may look things up and do some things that you can't do on your watch on your phone. And then there are going to be other things that it's nice having the bigger screen. Well, you'll either use your laptop or your iPad or both. Your MacBook or your iPad. And then having it with an iMac, even better. These are really, Apple's lineup, especially with the iPad now, I can't believe that I used to have multiple computers. I've always had multiple computers as early as I could have. I just kept adding and adding and adding, and I never stopped using the other ones. I just kept adding more. I did stop using other ones. Eventually, I gave some away as gifts and things like that. And, it was sad because I loved them, but, they're just tools, and if I can share the tools with someone else, I shouldn't hold on to that possession. So that's what I did, and now I have my current tech, and that's about all I have. I don't really have much extra. And when I start adding, I need to give these to my wife. And then she'll be able to step into the power of everything I'm doing and be my sidekick. And so it's kind of interesting how the iPad is, because it truly is a sidekick device. And each device really is a sidekick to you. And that's how you should think of it. And you should think of, well, which sidekick is going to make the most sense for me if you can't afford all of them at once. You've got to prioritize. And sometimes you may not be able to prioritize an iPad over a MacBook because you need a Mac. So if it's between a Mac or an iPad, I would still choose a Mac. A MacBook Air probably. And, at bare minimum, that is the bare minimum, the MacBook Air. But any of the MacBooks, it's like they do a whole nother level of things. even though the iPad's come a long way now with iPad OS, it's still not quite there. It's still a Sidekick device. It's not quite the hero. I still recommend the Mac over the iPad if it's one or the other. But if you can get both, I mean, it's a tough call on what's more important if you buy a used Mac and then a brand new iPad. That's tough. Because while I do like this, with the newest iPad Pro, it's got Face ID and it's more universal with flipping it around. I mean, those kinds of things are subtle, but then you've got the Apple Pencil 2. It makes a difference. If you're going to buy since my wife needs this, why should I buy the exact same thing? No, I upgrade, and then when I upgrade again, I'll give it to her, and then she'll be able to hand off. That's what's amazing about Apple technology, and it still stays good for quite some time. These new devices are just incredible. I would imagine that this iPad Pro is going to stay usable for a good solid 10 years. I've got an iPad 2. It's like 10 years old. When was the iPad 2 released? No, it's not 10 years old. It's not 8 years old. So yeah, that's obsolete. You could still kind of use it, but it's mostly obsolete. We'll see. But I think this is still going to be. Well, that's the thing. You can still use it if you try. You can still use it for some stuff, and this is still going to be, I think, the thing. I am interested to see what these devices morph into over the next 10 years. The iPad Pro versus, the iPad of the future. What's it really going to look like? Are they going to be foldable, that kind of thing? This is, with my case, it doubles the size of my iPad. But I don't feel safe without it. I would not take it out of the iPad, out of the case. And because it's like I had my iPad 2, it was out of the case one time, and it was on over top of a cement floor for 2 seconds. It was never over top. It was like the first time, maybe a couple times before that, but very, very, very few times. And it dropped, bent the corner, messed it all like that. That's a bummer. This has fallen and stayed quite secure. And my iPad with the case was, kids could stand on it. This one, I don't know. You might be able to stand on this. So it's a big deal where I really wouldn't stand on it without. So you got to think about that. That's why the iPad is better than the other devices. Like my MacBook. I don't carry my MacBook around other than I put it in the case and then I carry it in its case. It's important for all Apple devices to be like that. They're so beautiful, but they're so delicate at the same time. But they're so thin and stuff that we need to be innovating more sturdy cases and things along those lines so that I could imagine sticking this in a plastic shell, like the plastic shells of the early 2000s, my MacBook Air, and it would still be light with the plastic if it was, light plastic, and it would protect the inner shell, and it would make it less desirable to steal. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, that's all for today. The iPad still is a Sidekick. I'm sorry, I just can't make it. I can't decide it's a hero yet. With its current limitations, it's coming a long way. Such a long way with iPad OS, but not quite ready. So thank you for another episode. Have a great day.